Alrighty guys, welcome back to Star Wars Review. Today I'm reviewing Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3 Episode 1, Confined, which was directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Jennifer Corbett and was released on February 21st, 2024, which is the first of the 3 premiere episodes. And it is kind of a, I guess, part 1 of 3, kind of more of a part 1 of 2, as the, second episode doesn't really have as much to do with this episode, where the third episode is pretty much a direct continuation of this episode, but the second episode only really works in between these episodes. Obviously, I'll get into all that for my reviews for the second and third episode, but for now, I'm just going to talk about the first episode, which, I enjoyed it. It is a lot slower than a usual episode of The Bad Batch, but that's a lot of the reason why I enjoyed it, as we get to see what Omega's life is like now as a prisoner in Mount Tantus, which at the start of the episode, we see her in her, quote-unquote room, which is what the Imperials are calling it, even though it is a cell, which I do think it isn't till a little later in the episode, but we do see that she's been scratching in tally marks on the wall near the window area, just for how many days it's been, which at this time, there's around 20 tally marks, so it's been a few weeks since the season 2 finale, but the tally marks do come up again later on in the episode. But we see Emery, the other female clone who's working with Hemlock, come and get her, and then they start the day by taking blood samples from the clones, which we do see some of them in those moments, and they're looking real rough, including Crosshair, which Omega walks by him while going to the blood sample place. Obviously, Crosshair seemingly doesn't notice her, but obviously she does. But she can't do anything, say anything to him right now. But we see Emery take Omega's sample and then send her off to Nala Se, which we see in this little lab area. It's a little more private. It's really only Nala Se and Omega in there with some droids. But Nala Se is testing the blood samples, which she discards Omega's, telling her it's for her own safety, and then starts to explain what exactly they're using the blood samples for, which is that Hemlock and the Empire are trying to find positive M counts to reproduce them, but they haven't found a clone with the right amount yet, which M count I'm assuming is referring to midichlorians, as in the Mandalorian. They've been referred to, as M count. But Nala Se doesn't really fully explain it, as Hemlock ends up walking in at this point in time and asks for Nala Se to come with him, which we see them head to what Hemlock calls the vault, which you do see it again later in the episode, but in these moments where we see it, it's only Hemlock and Nala Se entering and leaving, which the time later in the episode is them leaving, and we see them talking about the M count transfer and how it was seemingly successful, but the M count was mostly diminished, and they can't have that. Which this stuff does pop back up in episode 3, and we get some more solid answers there. But that's one thing I really enjoyed about this episode, was starting to get more answers on what it is Hemlock is up to, and just more development with him as a villain. But back to Omega's first day. We then see that she's working in the kennel area, feeding these hounds. I think they're called Lurka hounds. But we see that she's befriended a female one and named her Batcher. And instead of giving Batcher her normal food, Omega saves some of her own food for her and gives Batcher that. But we then see Omega go and speak with Crosshair in his cell, which we got a few scenes in the episode between them. And I really enjoyed those moments. The first time we see Omega talking about planning an escape, which Crosshair tells her that, he already tried and failed, and, that there's really no reason to try again, as there's seemingly no way to escape, which Omega does suggest going to Emery, which Crosshair tells her that not all clones are to be trusted, and that Omega does trust a little too much, but Omega says that she'll find a way to escape, and then leaves and heads back to her, quote-unquote room, and scratches in a new tally for the day, and then she takes out this Tuca doll she's made with the with the straw from the kennel area, and then she goes to sleep holding it, which we then see Omega wake up, but it's not the next day, as we see that there's 100 some more days tallied off on her, scratched off on the window area. So, she's been at Mount Tantus for at least 4 months now. But we do see later on during nighttime that she doesn't even bother scratching in a new tally, so we don't know when she stopped. This could be the first time she didn't scratch off a new tally, or it could have been months ago. Who knows? But obviously a good bit of time has passed. But to go back to that morning and whatnot, we then see her do her boring, mundane routine, first with the blood work and then at the kennels, which this time at the kennels, she notices Batcher's been hurt, and she tries to get the droid who works in the area to help, but the droid says they aren't a medic droid, and also says if Batcher doesn't heal, she'll be terminated. So Omega finds a medkit and patches up Batcher's wound, which we then see her speak with Crosshair again, about escaping and whatnot, which at first Omega is talking about Batcher and her wounds, which Crosshair, a little annoyed, asks her what her primary objective is, which she says is, to escape. And so Crosshair tells her to just complete the objective and escape and, to leave him behind. He does say if he had the chance to escape, he wouldn't think twice about saving her, which does upset her. And, he then tells her that he's not like the others, referring to the other members of the Bad Batch. But Omega tells him that she's not giving up and she won't leave him behind. And then she starts to leave. But he then gets up and tells her to not risk anything, for him, and that he belongs in here. Which Omega tells him that none of them belong here. But we then see her go to sleep, which the next day she has a surprise inspection as Emery and 2 clone commandos, come into her room and look through her stuff, which they don't find anything except for the Tuca doll. And Emery takes it, telling Omega she can't have personal items. And so they leave and start another mundane day, which I think it was after this scene we get the scene with Hemlock and Nala Se leaving the vault, which I already talked about a little bit. But also in this scene, Hemlock threatens Omega's freedoms, or quote unquote freedoms, she's been getting, if Nala Se can't get results soon. But we once again see Omega in the kennel area where she finds that Batcher has healed up, but the droid working the area still says that Batcher is going to be terminated, not just because of the wound, but because of the domestication Omega has done. And, Omega can't change the droid's mind, so she fights the droid, stealing their tablet thingy, which she then uses to drop a crate on the droid, and then uses it to free Batcher, but the droid alerted, security before they got destroyed, and so Hemlock and Emery come in, which Hemlock, kind of gaslights Omega for releasing Batcher, saying that Batcher is weak and will most likely die out in the wild, which he brings up this ship, which crashed out beyond the mountain, which we actually saw the scene of this ship crashing at the very start of the episode. All the TK stormtroopers in it died, not because of the crash, but because of the wild beasts out there in the forest. And so Hemlock brings that up and, tells her that Batcher will have to face those same beasts and will most likely die, which Omega stands up to him and tells him that Batcher at least has a better chance out there than she did here at Tantus, as, she was going to be terminated. But then Omega brings up that Hemlock can't do anything to her because Hemlock needs Nala Se, and Nala Se won't work for him without Omega, which Hemlock says that he obviously won't hurt her, but he will hurt Crosshair, which, upsets Omega. But Hemlock then tells Emery to take Omega back to her quote-unquote room and restrict her access, which Emery does that, but she does end up giving Omega her Tuca doll back, which the episode ends with Omega watching out the window, hearing the howls of a creature, which we see is Batcher standing on what I assume is the crash ship from earlier. But like I said, I quite enjoyed this first episode. It is a lot slower than a normal episode of The Bad Batch, and I do think it works better when watching it with the next 2 episodes definitely episode 3. So it does have that part 1 of 2 kind of feeling to it. So, it's not really an episode, but stands on its own as much, I guess. But I did really enjoy diving into, more with Mount Tantus and seeing how Hemlock and the Empire is treating Omega. And obviously we do see a little bit with the clones. We don't really see the worst of it as we only get it through Omega's eyes. But, I still enjoyed seeing more of that. But, oh no, I quite enjoyed the episode. So my grade is going to be a B+. So yeah. But next I'll review episode 2, Paths Unknown, I think it's called. So you can check that out then. But in the meantime, check out my reviews on the first 2 seasons of The Bad Batch and everything else to do. But I've been Star Wars Review, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Over yet. There is nothing of greater importance to secure the future of this empire. Whatever is needed to accomplish this goal, you will have it.